Welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is H. Wayne Wilson. As time passes, communities evolve and changes occur. Some of those are steps backward and some of those are giant strides forward, and that is the case in Galesburg. We're going to be talking about changes in Galesburg with the mayor of Galesburg. He is John Pritchard, who was just elected to his second term in office. Congratulations and welcome to At Issue.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And also joining us is Ken Springer. Probably should use the name first. Ken Springer is the president of the Knox County Area Partnership for Economic Development. And if some of you in McLean County recognize him and say, wait a minute, he was with EDC. Yes, he was the vice president at the EDC over in McLean County at Bloomington-Normal. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of topics to talk about, but let's talk about something you said during a debate back in March. During the election process in Galesburg when you were running for mayor. You advocated for creating jobs and training students for skilled workforces to attract more residents, prepare Galesburg's young people for modern careers, and to keep more youth in Galesburg. That's a pretty tall order. What have you done so far? What is next?
Well, so far, of course, we have the Galesburg Promise in place to allow every student in Galesburg to move on to college, Carl Sandburg. Number two is we've been working with local industry and international industry to get equipment donated to our high school for the purposes of training CNC operators. We had $500,000 of equipment. And February 10th, I think we had a ceremony to highlight that, and the president of SMTCL America was there. We've also been working in cooperation with Carl Sandburg College. They've now developed a curriculum in CNC operations and programming, and that starts in earnest this coming fall. So we also, of course, are collaborating with other area high schools to develop curriculum in this area. So we've got a lot of activity going on that I think are going to give opportunities to young people who are interested in pursuing it the chance to do it.
John mentioned CNC. That stands for Computer Numerical Control, so that we understand CNC. It is not a rail yard in Galesburg. So let's talk a little bit about, John mentioned some of these programs where he wants to keep young people there, he wants to train them. How important is training the workforce in your estimation?
Workforce is absolutely critical in economic development. These days, workforce is probably the single most important factor that companies are looking at when they're determining where to locate and which communities to choose. One of the very interesting things about being involved in economic development and going out and talking with employers in our area is to find that there are a number of employers that just simply can't find skilled workers that they need. Which goes against the conventional wisdom that there are a lack of jobs in our area. Well, that's not the case. There's lots of jobs, but what we need is the skilled workers to fill them.
And your programs are actually having an impact on one company?
Yes, Pegasus Manufacturing has agreed to provide paid internships to high school and college students. They have 4 interns as of last week. Now this week they only have 3 interns because they've hired one of the interns full time. So you can now in Galesburg you can graduate high school, get your college tuition paid in full, and get a paid internship if you're studying this area. So pretty exciting.
This all recalls the time when schools had vocational education. They got away from that and now they're returning to that. Do you work with the schools to develop these kinds of VOED programs?
Very closely, yeah. It has to be a partnership between employers and the educators. And I think that's one of the key differentiators is we're listening to our companies more and more, and that is driving our decisions and it is driving our push to develop a skilled workforce.
Let's talk about some of the areas where economic development has occurred, and one of those is Iron Spike Brewing. They took a building that actually was costing the city, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that building was generating about $80,000 a year in red ink, and
it was city-owned.
It was a city-owned building. It was the old fire station downtown, and it was our designated community center, which really meant nothing more than it was a place you could rent some space cheap for a birthday party or a civic meeting of some sort. probably down to 70 meetings a year would occur there. That revenue went into reducing that loss from 100,000 to maybe 80,000. Today, of course, the building was appraised, sold at full appraisal to Iron Spike, and today, of course, they're generating lots of payroll. There are lots of people there. My business is next door, and I actually have trouble now parking at night because there's so many people parking down there to go into Iron Spike. Draws a lot of people into the community from other areas, and has been very successful. I think they're canning some of their beers at this point.
They're really an identity company for Galesburg. I mean, one of the things I love about it is every can of beer that Iron Spike bottles and sells, says proudly made in Galesburg, Illinois, and those are going out all over the region, and they're really making a name for themselves. So that's been a fantastic project for us.
Let's talk about one that might happen. In fact, let's talk about two that might happen. First, let's talk about the Railroad Hall of Fame, the National Railroad Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly when it was first proposed, but it was 2003, 2004, in that range. And it's 2017, John.
Yes, it is, yes. And they have been in the fundraising mode for several years, and I don't know if you're familiar, but the railroad industry in the last 3 years has really been in a depression, with the reduction in coal train hauls and so forth. But they have recently secured some more executives in the rail industry to help out with the fundraising effort, and I'm pretty confident they're going to make their goal. They've raised several million so far. They've got probably an equal amount to go, but once they get to a certain point, they'll break ground, and I think that's going to happen in a couple of years. It's going to be called the Engines of Freedom Center, and it's going to tell the story of all the people that worked for the railroad, the various ethnic groups, and it's going to tell the story about how the railroad really kind of opened up America.
In that the original proposal was to have the Hall of Fame near I-74. That's moved now. It's going to be near the depot.
Yes, literally it will sit next to the depot, and Seminary Street, the block that runs between Tompkins and South Street will be where the building actually sits.
And you have high hopes for the expansion of Seminary Street.
Yeah, I think one of the best indicators that we've gotten so far that the Railroad Hall of Fame project is imminent is that some of the properties around where the Hall of Fame will be located have started to develop, including a very large project which was just announced this week on South Seminary Street. It's a multi-tenant retail building that'll be developed on the corner of Tompkins and Seminary, effectively doubling the size of Seminary Street.
Another project that, under the category of when will it happen, is Kit Wilcox is interested in the old candy factory.
Yes.
I believe it's going to be, might be a boutique hotel.
Yeah, his proposal to the city was he was going to attempt to develop a boutique hotel, 32 rooms, and a restaurant in the building. And on that basis, the city granted him an option to give him a period of time to try and put the deal together, do all the job costing and find the investors and so forth. We hope he's able to do it, and we think, obviously, with the other things occurring in the neighborhood, in that area that we call our cultural area, that he'll be successful. He might not, but he's got a couple of years to work it out.
The city owns the building?
The city owns the building, yeah.
What is the city's commitment, either financially or otherwise, to see if this project will work?
Well, the city, I think, they purchased the building about 9 years ago, and since then we've had only a couple tire kickers until Kit Wilcox came along. And we paid, I might be mistaken, but I think we paid about $38,000 for the building. And we've agreed, if he's going to put a boutique hotel and the restaurant, we've agreed to sell him the building for $1. And we've agreed to give him a couple of years to get that worked out.
Economic development is your primary focus, and if you go to your website, you tout transportation, you tout other issues. What are you promoting? How are you going about attracting or retaining or expanding businesses in the Knox, and remember, this is Knox County, the entire county that you work for.
Yeah, we have a multifaceted economic development strategy. One is attracting companies, two is helping existing companies expand, and three is helping new companies get started. And, our key assets right now are our rail assets, interstate. We're working to further build our workforce up, as we just talked about, to make that one of our cards that we could lay on the table and for industry. Also, our water supply is very important as well. But in the last few years, given a lot of the chaos that we've been seeing happening at the state level, we've deliberately chosen to focus more on growing our own companies and put more of our staff time and resources into that, as opposed to going out and attempting to bring new companies in, simply because it's very difficult to bring new companies into Illinois right now, as anybody else that's doing economic development in the state will tell you. And so we think it's more pragmatic to be looking at growing our own and helping entrepreneurs get launched.
Ken mentioned water.
Yes.
You knew it was coming up.
Yes.
For those that don't know the history, it was about April of 2016 that it was announced that Galesburg had high lead content in young people. We won't go into the specifics of that. That is well documented. The real important aspect of this is, okay, there's lead in the water in some houses in Galesburg. What is the city doing to help fix that problem?
Well, number one, of course, we're now finally being able to start the replacement in a serious way of the 3,000 water lines, residential water lines. We expect that we'll have replaced about 1,000 by the end of this year. That will exhaust the $4 million forgivable loan and the other monies that the city's spending routinely as part of its ongoing infrastructure maintenance. So we'll still be looking at 2,000 lines to replace. The other thing we've done, of course, is we've researched in cooperation with the Knox County Health Department, the nature of the high lead levels in blood. The state report specifically states that it's not an indicator of what the source is. And the health department tells us specifically that it's always lead paint, dust from lead paint. So we've kind of reorganized city government to focus on reducing the lead levels in all these homes, mainly being from paint. And if you drill down even further, they'll say, it's the windows, it's the doors, the things that move, that the paint gets turned into dust. Those are the most obvious things to fix. So we're going to focus on that. I think we have about $400,000 in grants that we just received. I think we're going to get another $750,000 later this year to start the process. Obviously, will take a lot of money and time to make a significant impact. But one of the things we learned in working with the health department is the 538 children that became ill from lead between 1992 and the end of 2015, that's about 23, 24 year over that time span. Those 538 occurred in only 150 homes. Those 150 homes, 90 of them do not have lead water service lines. Only 60 do, and actually 100 are individually owned and 50 are rental properties. So it kind of confirms what the health department's always told us. It's lead paint that's really the source of the real serious contamination. I think if you, as I've told citizens before, if you have a lead service line, I don't think you need to be concerned unless you have children under age 6 or have a woman who's pregnant in the household. Then I think you need to take extra precautions, whatever that might be.
Well, that brings up the question of, first of all, these are lead lines. The water does not have lead in it when it leaves the plant. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, we've certified all the way through to the mains that there's no lead in the water.
So when the water gets to the lead line that is serving that older home, that's the homeowner's responsibility. So why is it incumbent upon the city to make good on this?
Well, that's a good argument. Basically, the answer is the Illinois EPA, or the EPA, through the Illinois EPA, requires that the water be tested at the faucet in the home. So even though that lead service line is not owned by the city, it's owned by the homeowner, we are impacted and have consequences if the water coming out of his faucet has lead. And the variables on that are basically, if I turn that faucet on and let it run for 3 minutes, stop it and then take a test, I'm not going to find any lead in that water because I flushed that lead service line. But if I went to bed at 10 o'clock and I get up and it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to run a water to make coffee, if I take a test of that water having sat there for many hours, some of the lead has leached out into the water. But the levels we have are generally so low that as an adult, I don't have any concern about drinking it. But for young people, it can affect development, brain development.
So
yeah.
currently, you're underway to replace the lead lines to about 1,000 of the 3,000 homes that have lead service.
Yes.
Is that correct?
We'll have that 1,000 done by the end of the year.
And you've prioritized who gets the service first.
Yes. Yep.
What happens to the other 2,000?
Well, we believe that down the road there'll be more funds available from the EPA, more water funds available for this project, and we're again, I talked about reorganizing the city, so we're now actively looking for funds for any funds that relate to any kind of lead poison abatement, water or paint or otherwise. I think it will take us, obviously a few more years, because I'm looking at saying it's another $8 million that we'll need to finish the job.
For both water and paint?
Just water.
Just water.
The paint, I wouldn't hazard it. I mean,
You've made very small progress on the paint side.
yes, we've just commenced that, and we're actually, I think, have a public hearing sometime in the next week or two on that for the first $400,000 to tell people how they can apply. It's kind of restricted to a certain geographical area, but people in that area can apply for this, and there's a process. Of course, it's government. There's a process.
In the interim, if you want to be careful, run your water 2 or 3 minutes to eliminate the lead from the water. But what about those houses that have lead paint? Those houses that were built and had paint prior to 1978? What is the recommendation until they get some sort of abatement?
I mean, the number one rule, I think, is to keep that house clean. Keep it as clean as possible. Obviously, if you've got peeling paint, old paint that's peeling, you want to remove it if you can, or paint over it, somehow contain it. Frankly, this is an area that hasn't received much public attention or interest because we've been talking about lead in water, the lead service lines. But this is what's affecting our children in Galesburg is lead paint chips, lead paint dust. And so keeping things clean, because young 2-year-olds, they move around on their hands and knees, they put their hand on stuff, they put it in their mouth, and that's the most typical method of ingestion of lead.
So it'll be years yet before...
It'll be years yet, but I think because we have so much of the problem concentrated in so little number of homes, we'll be able to make a sizable dent in the next 3 years.
Let's turn back to economic development, Ken. You have the city owns the logistics park, correct?
Correct.
Where are we with the logistics park in terms of, because we've talked about growing your own, are there companies that are interested in the logistics park coming in?
We've certainly been marketing the logistics park when we visit with professional site selectors, notably in the Chicago area. We always make sure that they're aware that the logistics park exists as a development opportunity. I think long term, we need to put some more work into marketing and developing the logistics park. One of the processes, one of the things that our office is interested in doing is looking at third-party site certification. This is something it's fairly new in economic development. It's been around for about 10 years, getting a third party to come in and verify that the site is truly shovel ready, making sure that your geotechnical analysis is done, you've looked at wetlands, you looked at archaeology, you got clear title to the property. Having a third party come in and certify that site, which removes a lot of the variables of risk that a company would need to deal with when looking to develop. It would make it a very, very powerful way for us to market that site. So that's one of the things that organization is beginning to work on. It's not going to be an instant overnight process. It's going to take us some time to get that done, but I feel if we can get that site certified by a third party, that'll really help us sell it.
That's greenfield.
Correct.
Now you have some older buildings, some of significant size, the old Walmart, the old Shopko, there's a couple of old grocery stores. How are you going about marketing those? Is there a place for that? taking into consideration the fact that we're buying off the internet so often?
Retail in particular is very interesting. There's a lot of change happening in the industry right now. Galesburg as a community, we have a number of vacant retail buildings, a few big boxes, a couple grocery stores over the years, and we're looking for adaptive ways to reuse those buildings. In some cases, we're looking at splitting them up into smaller units, shopping those around to different retail developers. In a whole, I would say it's more challenging to fill older buildings than it is to find projects that want a greenfield. But we've been fairly successful with that. One of our biggest projects last year was finding a user for the former Maytag property, which is now a outdoor distribution center for wind turbine parts. So no longer when you drive by the old Maytag property do you see vacant, an empty parking lot with weeds growing up into it. You see wind turbine parts everywhere. So we're just trying to be creative. We're trying to be opportunistic, and wherever we can find people that are interested in these properties, we're linking them up.
Any bites on any of the buildings that I mentioned?
There's been a few. One of our larger big box properties, which we can't announce what that is, we're in the process of working with somebody that's going to redevelop that.
The city is looking to develop a new comprehensive plan. As a matter of fact, Ken, you're on the committee.
Correct.
And a couple of public hearings that you attended, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When was the last comprehensive plan, and what do you expect out of a new comprehensive plan?
Well, the last plan was completed in 1999, so it's quite old as far as comprehensive plans. Preceding the comprehensive plan, we've been working on a community-wide process to develop input from all segments of the community, which will go into the comprehensive plan process. We're kind of at the beginning of that process, but I hope that part of the results of the plan will be general direction that the community is interested in, and part of it's technical, what zoning should be where and that kind of thing. So we're kind of in the beginning of that process. I think when we're finished, one of the values of a comprehensive plan that no one talks about is that when you apply for different grants for different projects, if you have an updated park and rec plan or a comprehensive plan, that's one of the requirements for consideration. So letting a community letting its comprehensive plan become way out of date is actually financially not the soundest practice.
Does this impact how you handle economic development for the county?
Sure. In a large sense, it helps steer the overall philosophy towards development. Comprehensive plans are great as far as identifying what types of growth the community would like to see in which areas of the community. I think in a larger sense, there's a lot of change. There's a lot of forward momentum. There's a lot of new vision happening right now in Galesburg and the Knox County area. There's a number of different initiatives that are looking towards the future, and the comprehensive plan is one of those.
Most communities are, and we mentioned earlier that retail is difficult right now because of internet sales, and internet sales, in many cases, there's no sales tax. Has that been the case for Galesburg?
Actually, at this point, our sales tax revenue continues to be up, much to our pleasure and frankly a little bit to our surprise. It's continued to grow. We do know of one unusual circumstance. Kohl's department store opened earlier this year, and the way they handle internet sales to their store is kind of unusual. If I order something from Kohl's via the internet, they'll actually package the product and ship it from a local store, and there'll be sales tax paid on that. So there's an example how one particular store's philosophy is not negatively impacting sales tax revenues.
And couple that with equalized assessed valuation. Where's that in the county?
In the county, I believe it increased for the first time, and I can't remember how many years, but it's on an upward trajectory, largely based on new commercial development. We've actually been, I got to tell you, I've been pleasantly surprised. I've been in the Galesburg, Knox County area now for a little over 2.5 years, and I've been really surprised at how much retail development we've seen. And I think part of that, what's really fueling that is, for a long time, retailers had a tough time determining what to do with communities the size of Galesburg. So we're about 32,000 in population. we're obviously far too large to be a small town, yet we're nowhere near the size of a mid-sized city like a Peoria or a Grand Rapids, Michigan, or what have you. And what we're finding is that retailers are learning how to adapt their stores and adapt their development to communities our size.
And with that, we have run out of time. We'll invite both of you back in the future for another discussion about what's happening in Knox County and in Galesburg. The Mayor of Galesburg, John Pritchard, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And Ken Springer, thank you for being with us. He's from the Knox County Economic Development. It's got a longer title than that,
Yeah.
I know, but let's just say Economic Development. Thank you both for joining us on At Issue. Next time on At Issue, we're going to be looking at endangered species, the role that Miller Park Zoo in Bloomington and the Peoria Zoo play in keeping species alive. Join us next time on At Issue.